I'll show you the dark side.
The Force Awakens takes everything that people loved in the original trilogy and simply makes it better. And if we're being honest, its familiar structure was a deliberate and brilliant choice. The film gave us superior action and cinematography and higher stakes. And honestly, this is the definitive version of the film that we should have got the first time. It smartly reboots the saga for a new generation while honoring its legacy. For years, the loudest criticisms have been that it's just a rehash of A New Hope. A desert scavenger, Rey, Luke, a droid, R2-D2, BB-8, with secret plans, a planet-destroying superweapon, the Death Star, the Star Killer. We've seen it all before, right? That criticism, while you can see where it comes from, and I get it, it misses the entire point. Because The Force Awakens isn't just a copy of the original trilogy. It studied the blueprint, understood the core components of the myth, and rebuilt it for a new generation. It's not a remake, it's a refinement. And by the end of this, you might just see why it's not just a great legacy sequel. It's a candidate for the ultimate Star Wars story. Let's address the idea that The Force Awakens is just a lazy beat-for-beat copy of The New Hope. It starts off with a lonely hero on a desert planet who finds a droid with vital information for a struggling resistance, a masked villain who serves a mysterious master, and a trench run to blow up a superweapon. The parallels are obvious, and yes, they are completely intentional. But to call this lazy is a fundamental misunderstanding of the job that J.J. Abrams and his team had to have. After a long hiatus of the big screen and a divisive prequel trilogy, Star Wars needed to prove it still had the magic. The film's job wasn't just to be a sequel, it had to be a revival. It had to feel like Star Wars again, at least to the people who really love the original trilogy. Personally, I think they suck. But anyways, I digress. Those familiar story beats aren't a crutch, they're a bridge, designed to give old fans a comforting sense of homecoming while giving new fans a perfect entry point. We see Rey's story mirror Luke's, Kylo Ren mirrors Vader, and the First Order's rise from the ashes of the Empire. JJ knew exactly what he was doing. By grounding the story in a familiar structure, the film gives itself the freedom to innovate where it really matters: characters, the theme, and the emotional stakes. It takes a Star Wars formula and uses it as a foundation to build something new, something that honors the past without being trapped by it. The real triumph for The Force Awakens lies with its new heroes and villains. They have instantly recognizable roles, but they also are complex, modern, and brilliantly performed improvements on the originals. Take Rey for example. On the surface, she's like Luke Skywalker, an orphan on a desert world dreaming of more. But where Luke was a farm boy eager for adventure, Rey is a hardened survivor, defined by a deep-seated trauma of abandonment. Her introduction, a dialogue-free sequence of her scavenging the wrecks of an old war, tells us everything about her resilience and loneliness. Her arc isn't about wanting to leave, it's about her fear of leaving, her desperate hope that her family who left her will one day return. This gives her a profound intentional conflict that Luke, in his first outing, didn't have. Then there's Finn, a character unlike anything we've seen in the films before, a stormtrooper with a conscience. The film also establishes that he was abducted and taken from his family as a child. That's kind of like galactic slavery, but that's another topic. His very first scene shows that he's horrified by the violence of the First Order, breaking decades of programming to do the right thing. He's not a confident hero, he's a man on a run, driven by fear, but ultimately by his desire to protect his new friends. His desperate, often hilarious energy makes him one of the most relatable characters in the entire saga.
We have to be ready for that. Oh, there's an access tunnel that leads... Why are you doing that? Why are you doing this? I'm trying to come up with a plan.
His journey from a cog in a machine to a hero in his own right is one of the film's strongest emotional storylines. And finally, we have Kylo Ren. He's not Darth Vader. Vader was a pillar of evil in A New Hope, a fully formed, terrifying presence. Kylo Ren is a Vader fanboy who wears a mask not because he needs it, but because he's trying to live up to a legacy he doesn't fully understand. He is powerful, but he's also insecure, prone to temper tantrums, and visibly torn apart by the pull to the light side. This internal struggle makes him a far more volatile and unpredictable villain, a fascinating deconstruction of the dark side architect. For all of the character depth, Star Wars is also about spectacle, and The Force Awakens delivers some of the most thrilling and visually stunning action in the entire franchise. JJ brought a modern energy to the saga, blending practical effects with seamless CGI to create a world that felt tangible and real. The Millennium Falcon's escape from Jakku was a masterclass in action and filmmaking. The camera swoops, the dives with the ship, putting us right in the cockpit with Rey and Finn. It's not just a chase, it's a reintroduction to the fastest hunk of junk in the galaxy, and it feels more exhilarating than ever. The Resistance attack on Starkiller Base with Poe's X-Wing squadron skimming across the water as they close in on the target. It's beautiful. A perfect fusion of the classic imagery, but with modern flair. And then there's a lightsaber duel. The final confrontation between Rey, Finn, and Kylo Ren in the snowy forest of the Starkiller Base. It's raw and desperate. This isn't the elegant, choreographed ballet of the prequels, but it's also not the cheesiness and terrible fighting in the originals. It's a brawl. Kylo Ren is wounded and emotionally compromised after killing his father, fighting with brutal, sledgehammer blows. Finn, brave and clearly outmatched, wields a saber with frantic energy, and Rey, Rey taps into the Force for the first time, fights with a mix of terror and instinct. The fight tells a story, with every clash of the blades reveals characters raising the emotional stakes. It's gritty, messy, and one of the most compelling duels in the saga. A common critique is that the Starkiller base is just a bigger Death Star, but that also misses the entire point of its existence. The Death Star was a military weapon designed to intimidate planets into submission. The Starkiller base is a weapon of pure terror, capable of wiping out entire systems from across the galaxy. I mean, it uses the power of the sun, like, come on. Its first and only use isn't against a military target, but against the heart of the New Republic itself. In a single horrifying moment, the film shows the destruction of the new government and its fleet, killing countless people and plunging the galaxy into chaos. This isn't a slow political decline like the prequels, it's a sudden, galaxy-wide mass murder. The stakes are instantly and terrifyingly raised. This act also reframes the conflict. The Resistance isn't a well-funded rebellion alliance. They are a small, under-resourced group that General Organa had to form because the New Republic, who had drastically reduced its military, refused to see the threat of the First Order growing within the shadows. They were right all along, and now they're all that's left. This makes their struggle more desperate, their fight more personal, and their eventual victory all the more meaningful. The Force Awakens establishes a galaxy that's far more complex and fragile than we've ever seen it before. Perhaps the film's most delicate balancing act is what to do with the original heroes, Han, Leia, and Luke. Far from being simple fan service, The Force Awakens uses them to give the story emotional weight and to pass the torch in a meaningful way. When we meet Han Solo again, he's not the celebrated war hero, he's returned to smuggling, and cast to the shadows as he deals with the unbearable pain of losing his son to the dark side. His arc is tragic. They show us a Han who is older, wearier, but still has that familiar spark. His mentorship of Rey and Finn isn't just a repeat of Obi-Wan and Luke. He's just an old man who sees a bit of himself in these lost kids. His final confrontation with his son is the emotional heart of the movie, a devastating and unforgettable moment that solidifies Kylo Ren as a true villain and gives Han's story a powerful, tragic conclusion. Then there's Princess Leia, or General Organa. Her reunion with Han is a heavy and unspoken grief. They didn't lose a kid, but they lost a kid. They are two people who share a moment who have loved and lost so much. And Luke? Well, his absence looms over the entire film, making him the figure of myth. Rey's search for Luke, similar to Luke's search for Yoda, and the galaxy's best lightsaber wielder, cool as the other side of the pillow. The whole plot is driven by the galaxy-wide search for Luke Skywalker. By holding him back into the final scene, the film builds his legend. His presence is felt in every frame, making his eventual reveal a moment of pure cinematic power. I remember getting chills when I first saw it. The Force Awakens skillfully uses the legacy of these characters to launch the new generation. So people may look at it as just a remake, but when you look closer, you see a film that is far more clever, emotional, and brilliantly constructed. It's a film that understood that to move Star Wars forward, it had to go back to its roots. So what do you think? Is The Force Awakens the definitive edition of Star Wars? And is it a top 5 Star Wars movie? Let me know down in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more.